Here we go. It's time for questions.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Love Talk Radio.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Sean Murphy. Hope you're having an outstanding day. Extended version. Because it's about the fine art of questions. Boy, I gotta tell you, it's an amazing process to hear the compliments and just the questions that come back from people wanting to know more about how do you get better at asking questions. Well, like any muscle, any ability, practice usually helps. You know, we talk about in our business, in our industry, the ability to help somebody move forward, to move through the process of prospecting. Well, let me start out with just a couple of basic concepts. You know, the only reason you'd ever prospect someone is so they could tell you how to sign them up. Did I say that right? Yeah, I think I did. Why would you ever prospect someone? So they could tell you how to sign them up. You know, if you believe your service, whatever it is that you have to offer can bring value to someone, then by gosh, it can probably bring value to someone. So what do? Well, you know, I just went online before this event, before this show this morning, and I just typed in quotes and questions. Because you all know I'm not smart enough to know all these. So just think about this. It's not the answer that enlightens, it's the question. What does that mean? It's not the answer that enlightens, it's the question. You know, we say in this industry, you want better answers, ask better questions. What are the questions that you could ask better to your prospect? See, we have the idea that we love to ask questions so we can answer them. You ever finish someone's sentence? Stop that. Do you ever finish someone's thought? Stop that. Folks, if you ask a question, if the question was important enough to ask someone, then by gosh, let them answer it. I don't know what else to say. So how do you get better at asking questions? Well, you get better at listening. Because if you don't understand what it is they're saying, then by gosh, ask more questions. But we assume, and we all know what happens when you assume, we assume that we know what they're saying when they give us a response. Man, I got to tell you, I've been, years and years and years ago, I've been so surprised when I was dealing with customers and power plants and wastewater treatment facilities and nuclear facilities, when I assumed that I knew what they meant, when I assumed that their answer was what I thought it was. One scenario cost me 6 figures, cost my company, because I had the wrong answer. There's more than one answer to most questions because you're dealing with people. So when you ask someone, whatever question it is, you may want to follow up with that. You know, that's an interesting answer. Could you share more on that? Could you let me know more about that? I'd love to hear more about that. Because, folks, I got to tell you, most people don't really want to hear you talk. Yeah, that can be the case. I know it is for me. You know, think about it this way. A good question outranks an easy answer. If the answers you're getting from your prospects come too easy to them, you may want to think about asking some more challenging questions. A good buddy of mine, John Martin, said the other day on Facebook, he says, you're the only guy I know in 3 questions can get right into the middle of someone's heart. He's not too shabby himself. He's a great guy. The point is that if I know I'm not going to hurt you, I don't mind asking you difficult questions because I value my time and I want to make sure that I'm bringing value. And there's no reason for us to be talking about the weather if we're talking about whether or not you're going to be having more of what you want and less of what you don't. Excuse me. So the point is that a good question does outrank an easy answer. Why are you letting your customers, your prospects, doesn't matter what industry you're in, why are you giving them the opportunity to give you an easy answer? Now, here's where the fine art of questioning comes in is, how do you ask a difficult question without sounding like an interrogator? So, did you make enough on your W-2 last year that you're satisfied with? Did you file all of your tax? Yeah. You can ask questions like, if you were going to do the next 6 months like the last 6 months, would you be totally satisfied with that? Would you be totally just over the top satisfied? See, we think satisfied is just dealing with and bearing with the pain. So when you ask your questions, make sure you're asking, I'll say it again, better question, better answer. Make sure you're asking the questions so that they understand what it is you're asking them. Because if you've ever asked a question and gotten an answer that wasn't what you asked, and you let it slide, shame on you. That's why sometimes you'll hear me say, well, that's an interesting answer. It's not the answer to the question I asked, but that's an interesting answer. I'd love to hear that question later on, but right now my question was, and you can repeat your question. The wise man questions the wisdom of others because he questions his own. A foolish man questions it because it's different than his own. Which one are you? When you're talking to a prospect, a customer, a client, are you talking to them so that you can learn, or because they're not using your product, they're not using your service, and you're going to kind of show them how what they're doing isn't right? My dad taught me a long time ago, if no one ever has problems, when you're talking to them, no one ever has problems. What do I mean by that? I used to walk into phosphate plants years ago when I was in traditional sales and say, so what problems do you have I could help you with today? I deal with mechanical seals and rotating equipment. I don't have any problems. Well, how many times do you walk into your prospect and ask them questions that they have to answer admitting to a problem? Finances, time freedom, financial freedom, whatever it is. How many times are you asking questions that they have to admit to a problem? If I were to ask a large audience to stand up and say, okay, who's got a big problem today? The only people that would typically stand up are those that are on the verge of a breakdown, of a challenge, of some kind of something that is so bigger than the emotion and the fear of admitting to the problem. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So, how do you help them through that process? Well, first they got to trust you. You got to make people feel comfortable enough so that they know that you're going to guide them in the right way. See, that's why we ask questions a lot, because we want to make sure that the prospect actually hears the answers. Because a lot of times, folks, it's the first time they're hearing, A, the question, but B, it's the first time they're hearing the answers to questions that you're asking. What are you going to do in the next 6 months? I don't know. They feel the next 6 months are going to go by and they'll look back and go, boy, I should have done something different. But they didn't. They don't. And they wish they could have. So when you start having these conversations, they have to kind of be admitting in front of you that life isn't all what it's cracked up to be.